Well, hello, BookTube land. And look who's back by, well, I was going to say popular demand, but no, really no demand at all. There we go. There they are. The two cosmic lovers up there. There we go. That's nice to bring those two back. All this stuff here, like the cosmic, the universe, whatnot, this actually seems quite appropriate for this video because it does relate somewhat to the story we're about to discuss today. You'll understand why in a moment. Truth be told, I have this tapestry behind me. Like, I'm not even into the cosmic astrology stuff at all. Like, it is a nice thought though that like it's one universe, we're all here, all connected. It is a nice thought. Plus, it is a pretty cool backdrop. So there you go. Just wanted to throw that out there. All right, today we're going to discuss The Life of Chuck by Stephen King. It was one of 4 novellas in his collection called If It Bleeds. Blanked out for a moment. I film, it's early. So If It Bleeds, they came out like late 2019. And I read it back then. Thought, yeah, it was okay. Like, didn't really resonate with me. And then I reread it again because the movie The Life of Chuck came out, which on a different note, I don't know what happened with that movie because I was gonna record this video a couple weeks ago, and so it came out at the same time as the movie. The movie came and went. I had no idea it was even in theaters. So someone dropped the ball there. I didn't see an ad. Like no Instagram ad popped up or anything. It's like the movie came and went. I had no idea. And like the closest theater that even showed it, I found out was like an hour away. It wasn't even anywhere near me, which I don't mind that, good driving an hour, because I don't know if you know this, in a past life I considered myself Canadian. So if you tell me a place is an hour drive away, you might as well tell me it's right down the street. And according to that episode of South Park, Canada only has one road, but that's a whole other video for another day. First of all, let me say this. You may as well consider this video a complete spoiler review, because I have thoughts. Also, I need to talk about a lot of stuff in this, and like it's a short novella anyway, so it's really impossible to review it without talking about almost everything anyway. So you've been warned. Consider this a spoiler review. Let me say this. As I said before, it came out late 2019. I read it back then, thought it was okay. I reread it for the movie. I mean, in this particular story, The Life of Chuck, it was an emotional punch to the gut. Like, it hit me hard, big time. And we'll get into that after I talk about the story, but yeah. So yeah, lesson learned, folks. Always reread. Because if you have like a minor interest in something, or you thought it was somewhat interesting, it's always worth rereading because you're a few years older, a little more life experience. You may see and appreciate something that you didn't see before, and then it really clicks with you. So that certainly was the case for me with The Life of Chuck. Let's get into this, shall we? Okay, so first off, this novella is broken up into 3 acts, and the story is told in reverse order. We start with Act 3, Act 2, and then end with Act 1. So we end with the beginning. And so, Act 3, we start off, we follow this character. He's driving around, he hears ads on the radio, and he sees billboards all about this guy named Charles Krantz. And the ads reads, "Thank you, Chuck, 39 great years." And it's kind of confusing, because first of all, nobody has any idea who this Chuck guy is, but he's getting advertised all the time, so he must be a big guy. And like in the ads, you see the printed ads, it says 39 great years, but the character looking at the ad is confused because like he looks like a younger guy. So for maybe 39 years at a job, he retired, and that's just an old photo that they used. It doesn't make any sense to him. But here's the thing. So the world around this character we follow is coming to an end. Like literally an end. Like they mentioned, like California had like multiple earthquakes, and as a result sunk into the ocean. The bees are just disappearing. At one point, this character, he's looking at the stars through a telescope, and just the stars disappear. The universe is literally ending. And so the world's coming to an end, but all these ads pop up everywhere saying, "Thanks, Chuck, 39 great years." And what the hell is going on? Who's this Chuck? At one point, the guy's watching his TV, because the internet doesn't work anymore, and yeah, chance it does. It's a little sporadic, so he takes a chance to turn on Netflix, The signal goes out, but an ad pops up on the TV saying, "Thanks, Chuck, 39 great years." So what the hell's going on here? Like, the internet doesn't work, but somehow an ad for this Chuck guy still pops up on the TV. Something's definitely off here. But in the very next scene, we find out what's going on. Oh, and I probably should have mentioned this before too. Like I said, I said before, it was a spoiler review. Like what I'm about to say. At the heart of the story, it's like a kind of a common message that we've heard a lot of times. So if you do know, like knowing ahead of time what happens, will it ruin the experience for you? I don't think so. Like, I'll leave it up to you. Like I said, the movie's out, so the movie came and went. So by the time you see that video, put it this way: if you watch this video, by the time you actually get around to seeing the movie, you may have forgotten everything I said anyway. So I'll leave it up to you. Like I said, at the heart of it, it's a pretty basic story. So knowing ahead of time what happens shouldn't affect your experience, because it's going to touch you on a personal level anyway if it does. Okay, the universe is ending. Then we cut to the next scene. We're like, what's going on here? We cut to a hospital. Already a hospital. There's a man in the bed. He has like brain tumors and he's on life support. He's dying. And by his bedside are his young son and his brother-in-law. And we soon find out through their conversation of the son and the brother-in-law of this man that the man in the hospital bed is this so-called Chuck. He's dying in bed. And at this point, too, like, they don't leave anything up to the imagination. Like, Stephen King tells you exactly what's going on here. It's like the brother-in-law, he's like comforting the son. And he says flat out, so like, and he believes that in everyone's mind there's a universe, the whole world inside of our heads. And it's hard to think, whatever that world that is in Chuck's mind will die with him. So, like I said, nothing's left up to the imagination. You find out right then and there, like the people we've been following, with the world ending and whatnot, that's all in Chuck's head. Like literally, there's a universe inside Chuck's head. I kind of thought like, that was an interesting notion, because I feel like you, me, everybody, we all view the world a different way. Like we all have our own experience, our own little world in our heads. Well, in this case, in the story, it's literal. Like there's a literal world inside Chuck's head, and it's about to die along with Chuck. That was interesting. Like I said, like they tell you straight up, so there's nothing to interpret in that. Ooh, one important thing I have to mention too, like as we see Chuck dying in the hospital bed, they mention that he has a crescent-shaped scar on his hand. It's pretty specific. So like, and it actually does have some significance, but we will get to that in due time when it's appropriate. So, trying to figure out, like I said, the story's told in reverse order, so I was trying to figure out how to tell this. So, we start off with Act 3, the end. We're gonna jump to the end, the beginning. I'm confusing myself talking like this. So, we're gonna jump to Act 1 now. The beginning, which is the end. Okay. But the more I talk, I'm gonna confuse everybody. So, Act 1, here we go. We begin with Chuck as a young boy. He's like he lives with his grandparents. Like his parents both died in a car accident, so he lives with the grandparents. And we see him as a kid. Ever since he's a little kid, he loves dancing. He dances with his grandma all the time. His grandfather is kind of gets spooked by like this room on the property. He doesn't allow Chuck to go in this room, and like every time the grandfather goes in there, he gets scared about whatever happened in there, and like it causes him to drink a little more than he should. Now, I want to stress that he's still a loving man and everything, but he does drink a little too much. And so, as we go on, Chuck, he's a young teen, blah blah blah, he's living his life, and at one point, Chuck, he finally decides to go into the room and see what's been bothering his grandfather all these years. And so he goes in the room. It's like this little round room, empty, and like he walks in, doesn't see anything. He's about to leave, and as he's about to leave, he turns around and he sees in the middle of the room a man in a hospital bed. So he's looking like, who's this guy? He goes up to him. The guy's not he's still a pretty young guy. And Chuck, he realized that the man in the hospital bed is him because the crescent-shaped scar on the hand. Not only is that an identifying feature, it has more significance than that. But we will come up to that in due time. I promise you. So Chuck, he sees himself dying in the bed, and like it all becomes clear now, like why the grandfather was like drinking too much, because like the grandfather saw his own death, and he saw how his wife would die, and that kind of shook him up. Like he's on edge all the time now. He's like, oh, he saw his death. He doesn't know when it's coming, so he's kind of living on edge about it like that. So here's Chuck. He kind of, he kind of promises that he's not going to be like that, and this is where like the moral of the story comes in. It's the good old fashioned story of life is precious. Live your best life to the fullest. That old story. So Chuck vows to himself as a little boy that he's gonna, after seeing his death right in front of him, he decides that he's gonna live his life to the fullest. Or does he? Let's talk about that. Okay, Act 2. So we're in the middle. Little Chuck. Did he learn from seeing his own death and live his life to the fullest? Not really. He kind of lost a little bit of himself along the way. First of all, in Act 2, we see Chuck as a grown man. And, well, for starters, he's a banker. And that alone right there is a stereotype. You think a banker, it's money, 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 cold, heartless money, or a stuffy office. And so right off the bat, like that job is so stereotypical. I mean, Chuck, he kind of lost a little bit of himself along the way. Like mentioned as, like in the first act we saw him as a boy, he loved dancing. When he was a young man, coming of age, he was at a rock band, and like he loved dancing on stage. It's like there's a big time dancer, loved it. And let's see, so he was in a band. So yeah, like a young man, he was kind of loose. So, obviously, you got to grow up, mature. He has a family now, a wife and son. But he still lost a little bit of himself and like what he loved to do personally ever since he was a boy, which in this case was dancing. This is where the story like resonated with me, because first of all, like Chuck, he's like I say, he's a grown man now. Act 2 begins where Chuck is on like a business trip in Boston, and there's like a street musician. He's playing the drums. And Chuck, like I think it's safe to say at this point that he thinks back to what he saw as a boy. He realized that he saw his death. He's almost at that age, and at this point, Chuck, they say in the story, starts feeling terrible headaches. So you can't help but wonder. He probably is thinking back to what he saw as a young boy. He saw himself in the hospital bed, and here he is having these headaches. So like, this is it. Like, I think it's safe to say Chuck knows that this is his time. So what he does, like he sees this musician in the street playing the drums, and so Chuck just goes, like he just cuts loose with his briefcase down. Next, he just starts dancing in the street. Next thing, people are gathering around, everyone's like having fun. Next, a woman joins them. Next thing, they're twirling like crazy, like they're having a ball, just cutting loose. It's safe to say now, it was like Chuck, he's at that age, he's feeling the headaches, so like, this is it. His time's here. And at this point in his life, he finally just cut loose and kind of reverted back to his young self. It's like, really pulled at my heartstrings reading that. That was very touching. And as promised, before we get any further, in Act 2, we learn about the crescent-shaped scar in his hand. After all this, they mention this so many times, they're like, think, oh, must mean something. Well, Chuck, we find out he always told his wife how he got the scar. He said like he was at like a school dance. This bully came up to him, did the old, "Oh, you talking to my girl?" outside the school, that old story. And like so he got into a fight with this bully. He hit his hand on the fence, and that's what gave him the scar. That was a lie. Like as a young boy, he was like doing what he loves best. He was outside dancing his heart out, and he just hit his hand on the fence, and that's how he got the scar. So all this talk about the crescent scar, that's it. It made me think, like, why would he lie about his wife? You talk about like lie to his wife. So like, he's like, oh yeah, I was dancing, like cut my hand on the fence. No, he made up a story about getting in a fight with a bully. Talk about losing yourself along the way. Like he hit him. It's almost like he hid a little piece of himself from his wife. Like his wife doesn't even know what his passion was. Well, that was quite interesting. So yeah, be yourself, people. There you have it, folks. The life of Chuck. Moral of the story, live life to the fullest. Life is precious. You don't know when your time is up. And oh yeah, very heartwarming. Like I said, like, okay, this is why it was such an emotional punch to the gut for me. Because, like I said, I read it. The book came out like 5, 6 years ago. That's a long time. A lot of stuff happens in 5 or 6 years. And for me, like he said, well, first of all, I'm 37 years old. Chuck was 39, like 39 great years. So he was 39 years old when he died. And the last few years for me, I got too sappy or intimate here, but okay, last few years, like a lot of deaths in my family, like natural passings, but still, like my mother passed away. My aunt, my mom's younger sister, passed away shortly after that. They actually both passed away at the same age. So they had passed away. Like my grandmother passed, but she was 98 years old. So nothing at all tragic about that. But yeah, like both my mom and my aunt, they were pushing 70. So rereading this story, this is where it resonated with me. It's like you don't need a magical little room to see like what's in store for you. Like just take a look at like your family genetics. So like, and barring a tragedy or an accident doesn't happen to you, you take a good look at your family genetics, your family. You have a pretty good idea of what your future holds for you. In my case too, like, hard to think about it now, but like, I'm be 40 pretty soon, or in a few years I'll be 40 years old. Like, I may not live past 70, so most likely. So like, only getting closer to the end for me. So the thought of like a Chuck, like kind of like coming to his senses, seizing, seizing. What am I trying to say here? Trying to get like by the horns and recapture a little bit of himself, like kind of stuck with me. Oh yeah, like I said, still about 20 years old. I figure if I follow the family genetics, I got about 20 years of life left in me. And as myself, even when I get to be in my early to mid 40s, I don't know what I have in store for me. Any little nasty surprises pop up health wise. Yeah. I think I get in my own head at times here. A while back, like I had a little cold bug. You know it is. You get sick. It happens to all of us. We've all been here. You get a little bug, and like you just feel so physically weak from it. Like in my own head here, I just felt like so physically weak. I started looking at myself. I got in my mind a little bit. Ooh, I maybe started to deteriorate here, but thankfully not. There's just a cold bug, so I had to get that out of my head. So yeah, life of Chuck. A little story about, like I said, because I'm practically the same age as Chuck in the book. So really, like seeing was like that's my family recently. So really hit me hard. Like you seeing like what the future has in store for you. And let's see, don't waste your time. Live life to the fullest. On the bright side, we all got to go at some point. You look at my family. There is a chance I might die at the age 69. Yeah. I'm trying to end on a happy note here, people. This is some pretty dark shit here we're talking about. So yeah, that's what my tombstone will read. Like 69. He. Maybe an emoji face on a gravestone. If I die at age 68, I'm going to be pissed. Let me tell you about that. Anyway, so just trying to end this video on a happy note, people. So anyway, hope you all check out The Life of Chuck. I don't know if it's still playing in theaters around the country near any of you. Probably not. But until then, happy reading, people. I am all ready. I got my desk right in front of me here and my little stack of sports books for the summer of sport. Me and Michael Jordan here are gonna get some reading done. Take care, everybody. Enjoy your summer. Happy reading.